Hi, and welcome to episode 2 of the Lost Souls podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're going to be talking about hard work. Now, before I get into what I have to say about hard work, I first need to differentiate the different kinds of hard work because you can put in hard work and it be worth it. Say if you're doing it for personal reasons, say putting hard work in a gym, right? That's a version of hard work that can really pay off. That can really be beneficial, and that can be a positive thing for people to do. Although, I guess another place would be academics. If you care about good academics, putting in hard work, studying, doing your homework, whatever, that can be positive. That can positively impact you because you're learning more, and if you're in college or whatever, it can get you better grades. Better grades can get you scholarships, so they can get you into colleges you want or postgraduate degrees programs you want. Like, there are places where hard work is something, I don't want to say good, but I guess the word is good. Now, I'm going to say, this may or may not be controversial, but I'm going to say in pretty much, and there are layers to that. Like, personal can mean home life, blah, 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 like working on your house, because of course it's like if you own a house and the roof's falling, and putting in the hard work to fix the roof is like very beneficial. But outside of like personal reasons, which I guess academics would also be under, hard work really isn't something that's even worth putting in the effort for. And I'm not sure how people might feel about that, but it's just not, especially not in terms of labor, and certainly not when it comes to relationships. And I guess I'll just break that down first in terms of labor, because when it comes to labor, like, number one, you don't get paid anymore for doing hard work. Maybe in like some very small jobs where you get paid off commission, you might argue that hard work pays, but it really doesn't, because it's not hard work that's earning you more commission. It's either, however you want to look at it, smart or underhanded, because like at the end of the day, your goal is just to like sell somebody something, not to like build them a house or anything. Like, I don't get, like, you don't get tips. Like, construction companies don't get tips for building a good house, right? There's no incentive aside from like just being detracted, like, this shitty like craftsmanship of this house, they put this together like garbage, and then getting blasted after the fact. Like, hard work just isn't like there, and especially not for what pay is nowadays. And I really just shouldn't have to tell anybody with like the prices of everything around, like how prices are skyrocketing. You can hardly afford anything. Groceries are through the roof. Everything's through the roof. And it's like, for the pay that's being offered nowadays, it's not worth the effort, because what are you supposed to do? Right? Say, I'm not even, because it's not like standardized minimum wage, whatever you make, because I live in America. Say you make $15 an hour, which is not even what you make in my state minimum wage. Like, that doesn't actually add up to that much, and you're expected to like show up and work hard for this company so that I can make $15 an hour and live in poverty. No, thank you. I don't feel like working hard just to, not actually be able to do anything that labor would promise me I could do. And then also, in terms of relationships, it's a little bit different, but I guess I should get to that in a second. But here's the thing, like, you don't get paid anymore for putting in hard work while you're working. The most you can ask for, and I mean the absolute most you can ask for, is some form of recognition from your boss. Like, that's the token that they hold out, and they're like, your boss might come say, man, you're doing a good job today, and you gotta be like, oh, thanks, and you're like, I don't even give a fuck. Right, really? Because do you care if your boss thinks you're doing a good job? Maybe if like you're infatuated with your boss, maybe if like you think your boss is cute, and doesn't matter like what situation I'm talking about here, you like them for whatever reason, and then it's like, oh yeah, they're proud of me or whatever, and you feel good about yourself. But if their affection isn't the goal of your labor, then hard work doesn't pay and recognition doesn't matter. And what's more, especially in the workplace, it's kind of socially undesirable. And you gotta, like, understand what I mean by that, or I guess I gotta explain myself. Well, it's socially undesirable in that people don't look well or treat people well that work hard. I mean, that's just how it is. And you might say, well, no, people are usually nice to the hard workers. No. Being nice and treating people well is not the same thing. People like to get the two conflated. You can be nice to somebody and still treat them like shit. So here's what happens a lot is that the hard working person who goes through like labor and does the hard work, they'll be nice to their face, but like they're sitting there and they're like getting them to do all the work and still getting paid for it. Does it make sense? Like they're nice to your face, but then you turn your back and they're like, this motherfucker, he's gonna do it all. He's gonna do all my work for me and I'm gonna get paid for it. And then there's like these cliques growing on people who are just like, I'm not gonna work at all. And make everybody else do everything. And then socially, this hard worker doesn't actually make the social connections in the workplace that the other people do because they're too busy working, right? And so you get through and it's like, well, this person's the only thing they ever do is work. I don't sit there and talk to them. You know, they sit and they talk whenever they talk. They do whatever they do. Other person's too busy doing shit to ever be socially accepted. And so really, at that point, there's no point. There's no social benefit to working hard. There's no economic benefit because you're not getting paid anymore. And I struggle to say that you'd benefit some other way aside from like maybe you could like spin it as your own discipline. Like, I can make myself work hard even when there's no benefit. And it's like, well, congratulations on having the world's most useless skill, but we and it's not that hard work's never admired by anybody. It's just never admired by anybody who's in the context where it matters, right? Or usually not, because 9 times out of 10, your coworker's not going to say, "Man, you really put in some work today. Really good job." No. They're going to be like, this asshole over here doing work. It's only ever admired by people who are completely separate from it, like, say, your family or your significant other, your girlfriend, your wife, whatever. Those are the people who say, I'm so proud of you for putting in some hard work today. And they don't even know. They don't even know what you did. But, like, they're just proud of it on the face value of it, because you went and did it. It's not even like management, really, in places admire it. They're just like, this is somebody that I can get to do more than everybody else for the same amount of pay. I can squeeze them for all that they have, all the energy they have. I can suck a half and I can bleed them dry. It's like, maybe I'm exaggerating here, but it still holds truth. And all this is funny because I'm talking about just like the way things work nowadays, how people look at work, how people like interact with it. And despite this, we're still in the middle of what people consider grind culture. Now I gotta, expand on that now. But grind culture is just like this idea that you just put in all the hard work you can to make all the money you can, right? Because that's like what you're going for. It's like, we're all trying to make money out here. We're all trying to get rich. And it's like, first off, this is what people need to realize about getting rich, is that we don't have society structured to really allow you to do that easily, number one, if at all. And so, well, the hardest things are never easy. That's why you have to try so hard to be rich. And you're not understanding what I'm putting out. It's like, your wealth ends up being 100% determined by what you do for a living. I don't mean like any other it's 100% determined by what you do for a living. And so even like some of like the most high paying jobs in the world, and I'm going to use like a good middle of the row example because I dropped out of school for this, but engineers get paid exceptionally well. But even at their salary, like what a standard engineer, because there's a very, very high, like large range of engineers, and they each have their own specialties, and they each, because an engineer just ends up being somebody who makes and works on stuff. A lot of them more working on stuff than making stuff, but that's just what it is. But they get, they enjoy middle class incomes. And that might be a little controversial because like these people can make six figures. 100 grand a year is middle class now. Like I'm not sure that there's ever been like that fine line where people have been like, oh well, I know they have like income brackets, but like when you're approaching $100,000, you're not rich. You're approaching middle class, or you're right in the middle of middle class. Because that's like, once you get there, you can pretty much do what you want. You can go on vacations. You can take trips, you can buy those nice cars, and with the price of everything just skyrocketing, the poverty, like I know the poverty line doesn't keep it, but the lower class is above the poverty line, right? Like low class people still exist above the poverty line. People still struggle when they're low class, and like there's not really well-defined lines for what those are because the classes end up being solely defined by like what people can afford. Your economic status, if you will. How many trips do you take a year? What kind of cars do you drive? What kind of house do you own? How much money do you have on you at any time? Where do you go to eat when you go out to eat? How often do you go out to eat? This ends up being your status and your class, and it's solely determined by your job, and your job isn't going to pay you any more because you work hard. So hard work isn't going to actually get you any more money. It's not going to actually, there's no point to grind like that. And you can do it, and you might even feel better about yourself for trying, but that doesn't actually make it happen. But, money also isn't everything. That's the other part of that is like people can still live fulfilling lives in low class. And because money isn't everything, because you can still be happy and content with where you are as long as you're willing to accept like your situation. It's just you don't have the same things available, and in a society structured that's not seriously, like any societal structure that is not strictly communist where like everything is shared, there is inevitably gonna be poor people. There are gonna be people starving, there are gonna be people struggling, and there are gonna be people that like just don't have a lot. And whether like your feelings on like communism versus capitalism or blah 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 whatever, like that's like choosing that's just the reality. We're gonna have classes because people are gonna like be making less than others because that's how it works. Mm-hmm. And society determines on some level like what you make, right? Maybe like it doesn't always do the best job, and I'm not even saying it doesn't do the best job, but like I guess the best example is like OnlyFans girls, and I'm not sitting here like talking about like all these women like they're blah blah blah, they're bad, they're doing this shit, they're selling their bodies. No, these women are making more money than most like any other people in this world. They're some of them are some of the top earners of people everywhere, and you really can't sit back and say that like that's bad. You can't, because like economically, if you look at, because we like as a society, especially in like America, like you put like, what's the word? You put status and influence on how much money somebody makes. And in my personal opinion, like regardless of like, you can have your moral opinions on like, is it right? Should women do this? Like, sure, you can have those. They don't really matter. Like, if you really want to get down to nitty gritty, politics is a dirty fucking business. Is it moral to accept money from defense contractors to, prop up wars? Well, no, it's not, but people do it. And yeah, we have issues with it, but like, doesn't mean it stops. It doesn't mean it's not there, and it doesn't mean that like There isn't like real opportunity there. Or like car salesmen, or like salesmen of any kind, in my opinion, is almost an underhanded practice, even though we live in a consumerist society. And that's because the whole goal of like a cell phone person who sells phones, or a person who sells cars, is to just like get you to buy whatever. Like, they're not like thinking about your finances or anything. Like, yeah, they'll sit there and work with you, but at the end of the day, the only thing they want you to do is buy their shit, and they're going to use whatever tactics they can, and they want you to pay them as the highest price you can for it. And they're going to use whatever tricks they know to get that to happen. But nobody goes to the car salesman and says, "My gosh, you are such an immoral person." And the only people they're doing shit with and they're doing it to other people. Whereas with OnlyFans, like, it really, the only thing they're doing is, using themselves to make money for themselves. And there are guys on the internet who are going to pay for that. And that's another question, because I think that I don't think OnlyFans would have been as big if like we had everything we had now in like the 1950s. It really wouldn't be. It would not be big at all. And the question you got to ask is like, why? Like, even like 10, 20 years ago, even if we had the technology to have that happen, it wouldn't be, because there's this like massive culture shock. Because before, up until very recently, it's been like people have wanted like straight up relationships. People have wanted to like settle down. People are looking at like their future. They're looking for their husband and their wife. And the dating scene and dating culture today is just so absolutely, completely fucked that OnlyFans became a rise. Like, OnlyFans is the answer to the male loneliness epidemic, or it's an answer, a solution that can be seen as economically as the reason for it. And you might be like, what? No, Alex, no. People just want porn from OnlyFans girls. No, they want connection, and they just get porn because that also like gets connection, because it makes them feel connected to these beautiful women who they are attracted to. And what's more is, a lot of times these accounts, or these girls, or these OnlyFans girls, you will, if not actually getting a response from them, you will feel like you're getting a response to them. So you feel like there's a dialogue going on. You feel like there's a back and forth, even if it's just show me your ass, Like, I'm serious. Like, even if you're just like, give me all that good. Like, there's still like a back and forth there, and that's more back and forth than what a lot of these guys are probably getting from anywhere else. Because there's a lot of this anonymity, I guess. But, and I'm not even, because it's not just old men who are on OnlyFans. It's not just 50, 60, 70-year-old men who, their wife's, one foot in the grave, or they just don't love their wife anymore, and they're like, yeah, I want some young piece of ass, and like, that's not the only people on OnlyFans. All guys are on OnlyFans, because it's something that interests all guys. And even like, you can form like some kind of relationship with these girls. Like, you do realize, like, I hope people realize this, is it's not just like everything like, I just want to see your coochie all the time, or I just want to like show me what your tits look like today, and that's not what it ends up being. Even though that can be the perception sometimes. And yeah, I think I'm gonna move on from talking about that and get back to why hard work doesn't matter, because I get off topic. But here's something to think about if you ever in a workplace situation. You want to think about working hard. Here's the thing: you can bust your ass 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? For some company. Like, I'm going to use like lower down the totem pole like companies as most of my examples, since they employ most people. But I guess things would change as you get paid more, because there do end up being higher expectations. Like, that's kind of funny. Like, you get paid a couple bucks more on the hour than the minimum wage, and suddenly the expectations grow exponentially for how you're supposed to behave and conduct yourself in the workplace, even though, like, man, that's $3 on the hour, right? Like, double my wage, double the minimum wage, and then we'll start talking about how much better I'm supposed to act. But let's like really talk about minimum wage jobs for a second, because you can put in all the hard work you put in, And you can show up and you can bust your ass. You won't get a pay raise. You might get a little recognition, but you won't get a pay raise. But at the same time, ask yourself, that one guy or that one girl who's late for half their shifts calls in every other week, and everybody's talking about how unreliable they are and how they just want to get rid of them. They aren't fired, are they? Do they get fired for not working hard, for in fact doing less than the bare minimum? Do they get sent packing out the door? No, they don't, do they? They're still working and they still keep their job just like nothing ever happened. And so it's like not even like doing less than the bare minimum doesn't have consequences like you would have. Like, you have to be really bad at your job for people to want to fire you minimum wage job, because people just, it's a hassle people don't want to go through, right? So like, just don't. Like, I don't want to like push you in a certain direction, but I'm just trying to get you to see that, like, hey, like if you're listening to this and in some reason you don't already agree with me, or you're just like listening for whatever reason, or you like to hear me talk, like that's like, you people have their own reasons for everything. But those shitty employees still have their jobs, and it's not like you're getting any benefit from doing hard work. In fact, in those situations, it's almost like the benefit of doing hard work is that you did hard work and you get to like pat yourself on the back. Like that's the most you're gonna get sometimes. And then let's talk about another part of that, which is these hard workers that are like, yeah, like I'm gonna come bust my ass or whatever for no extra benefit. These are the same people who, when they get their days off, are getting called into work, because they're the only ones who might even think about showing up, right? When that shitty employee decides that it's like one of the 2 times this month they're gonna call in, and I'm not even talking shit about calling in, because I like you got to do it sometimes, and like I really don't think that like it's like it happens, right? It happens, but it doesn't change the context in which it happens, because even if you have a good reason every time that you call in, you're still calling in. And that causes issues or whatever. But then there's somebody who's got to cover your shift. And then, well, who do we call? We call the hard worker, because we want this to be as easy as possible today. Well, now the hard worker ends up being the person on the chopping block every time that they have because it's like this is their day off. Like now this hard-working person who, you know, probably values their days off more than the people who don't work hard. I don't know. Those people who don't do a fucking thing at work really enjoy sitting at home and doing even less than that. But, you know, these people are the people who end up suffering for it. Like, you end up suffering for working hard because now you're the reliable one. And in most situations, that would be a good thing. You know, person we can rely on, the person we can count on. Like, that is actually supposed to be a desirable quality. But in a workplace environment, it just ends up getting you fucked over. Called in on your days off. But unless, like, they're not, like, when you get called in, 9 times out of 10, like, unless you got a really good boss, 9 times out of 10, like, you're not, the rest of your schedule's not getting, so you're just working extra hours now, because we asked you to. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad how this all, like, plays out. Because this is just where society's at right now. And all this comes back to, like, productivity, right? Because why do people even work hard in the first place? Because they're sitting there and they're like, well, I want to show that I'm worth being here. Like, I'm going to be productive, and I'm going to, like, create worth, and I'm going to blah, 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 blah. When it's all, like, a myth. Right? Because, yeah, everything done has been done because somebody put in the work. But one person never is going to make the difference. And certainly not working at a fast food restaurant. You know. Just because you can make some McChickens for McDonald's doesn't actually mean that the world's a better place. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody enjoys their McChickens around when they're poor and they're like, I got $3, I want something to eat. Actually, it's more like 4 now, but let's not get into how McDonald's is now raising their prices or whatever. But, you know, it's like this whole culture, this whole, like, society is all, like focused and hyper focused on how much productivity you can have. Like, what have you done today? How many people, like, when you catch up with friends, what is it like? What have you been into? What have you been doing? Because there's always like something you should be doing. There's always something you should be working towards. Some goal you should be going like head first towards. Some job you should be trying to accomplish. Some degree you're trying to pursue. And it just never works out like that. Because it's just unsustainable. Like limitless, continual, never-ending productivity is 100% unsustainable. Because people cannot just simply pull that shit out of their ass every time they feel like it. You know? You really have to pick and choose what you do. But it seems to a lot of people that it's just that you do something is more important than picking and choose. But like, I become what I do, right? If I spend 5 years selling cars, well, I'm going to have the skills and abilities and probably some kind of attitudes of a car salesman, right? What if I don't want to be like a car salesman? And what if I realize that putting myself on that path is going to change me into somebody I don't want to be? Is it now right or wrong to continue down the path? Right? And like, these are decisions you make for yourself, but it seems like society's answer is, it doesn't matter what you become, we just want you to do something. Like, that really seems like society's whole thing is like, just don't worry about who you are or what you do or how you become, just be nothing and like just fill whatever role we need you to fill. And it's like, you know, if the only thing I ever do is fill roles, who the hell am I? Because I don't just get to leave all that at work. I don't get to just put on like a persona when I walk into work and then take it off when I leave. Like, that shit sticks around. And if you think that like, but you're like, well, there's actors and there's roles. Ask Jim Carrey how hard it is to like leave a role behind. I know you can't ask Jim Carrey, but just look into it. It's not so easy all the time. Because even if you're not, you're still going through the motions, you're still doing it, and you still end up in that headspace. Whether you like it or you don't. And so, in the same way, you got to be real careful about what you do. You got to be real careful about what you do. Because, like, say you enjoy not being a two-faced liar. Well, it's probably not a good idea to go be a politician, because you're going to be one by the time you come out of it, because that's like the nature of what happens in the political sphere. I was going to say industry, but politics isn't really an industry, is it? They just help every other industry fuck over everybody else. And now we're going to move on to the next part, which is about how hard work affects or it doesn't affect relationships. Because I'm just going to say, I'm going to put it out there right now, hard work will never positively affect a relationship. Romantic, friendship, otherwise. Because at the end of the day, a person's choice and opinion of you is not going to change because of the hard work you put in, right? It's just not. Let's take like the housewife who's cheating on her husband as an example, right? This man could go to work 5 days a week, bust his ass, provide for the whole family. But she's still going to cheat, right? And I'm not like trying to make like a judgment call about whether that's good or bad. I'm just saying that and that's just it, right? Even if that man who worked 40 hours a week came home and flowers and everything and put in all the work to try to make their relationship successful, that's still not going to stop the one from cheating, right? No amount of hard work's ever going to change somebody's opinion of you. Ever. 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 You can try all day long. You're always going to come up short. So, I'm not saying that effort at all is bad, because you do have to put in some effort, I imagine. But you can't just increase the amount of energy you put towards something and actually get like returns when it comes to social or romantic relationships. You can't. It's not how people work. People don't. People have their opinions of you, and honestly, no matter what you do, it's probably never going to change. That's just how it is. Like you can You can say shit unless you're like in the business of ruining reputation. Unless like you can't make people look at you more favorably, but you can make people look at you less favorably. See, does that make sense? I guess because people already have like this idea of how good you are, and like you can't get any better than how good they think you are, because like that's just wrapped up in how good they already think you are. But like you can start to like what's the word? Whittle it down. That's the word. I was thinking like carving with a knife. You know, and take wood with a knife and yeah, whittle it down. So just like be aware of that, and especially when it comes to people who aren't even in relationships. Let me just be frank with any guy listening who's like there's that girl that you like, but like you want to get her attention. You're never gonna get her attention. I'm sorry. Like really, it sucks, but you never. She's already made the call, dude. She's already made the call. There is no chance yet. All right. Yeah. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. And no matter what your brain's trying to make you think, no matter what your brain comes through and says, well, maybe there's like no. That they made their decision not long after they met you. All right. They made the whole decision, and it's over, and it's been over for a long time. All right. And it happened not long after you met. Not long after you decided you liked her, man. Maybe I'm talking to nobody. Maybe everybody thinks I'm just going off my rocker. Maybe somebody hears this and like needed to, right? Because that ends up being what happened. All right. No amount of flowers or trips or dates, offers, or even a car or whatever you're thinking about is going to change that opinion of you. Now, here's the thing that might happen. And she might take advantage of that. She might accept what you're giving her, and then you're never going to end up with the results you want. Ever. Because like I said, that decision was already made. Alright. So I guess the whole point of this whole podcast today was hard work rarely pays off. Don't do it. Be lazy. Alright. I'm out. Peace. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening. I'm Alex, and this has been the Lost Souls Podcast.